kind of want to start with this because I have so much admiration for people who have the patience, the bandwidth, and the skills to sit down and write a book. Because we're going to get into all the basketball stuff, but I just can't, I'd be remiss if I didn't start with that because I know how hard that is. I'm a big journalism guy. And you just wrote a book. So one, congratulations. But two, the thing that caught my eye, you talked about how the process was like a bit therapeutic.
Yeah.
Right? So how so?
I mean, for me, growing up, you're going to have these different layers of your memories, right? Starting from your childhood. And there's going to be trials and tribulations. There's going to be some good. There's going to be some bad. And I think in my community, from Black folks, especially males, we're taught the unwritten rule to not go seek therapy, right? Or not talk to anyone that could use that information against you, right? And my day-to-day process, it's a lot coming into me. And at some point, you need to get those thoughts out, right? And it's gonna cause some level of paranoia in who you give your information to, just because you don't necessarily want to share that vulnerability, right? Depend on the subject base. So for me, dealing with family, dealing with friends, dealing with associates, dealing with business, dealing with education, dealing with just these different subject base that come throughout your life as a man, you're gonna run into scenarios. And how do you process them scenarios? How do you clean them scenarios out? But how do you also get certain energy out of your life to allow for new, fresh energy to come in? So for me, on a daily basis, especially during COVID, I just started writing in my journal, right? And it gave me a proper space to share thoughts that I'm having that range from childhood all the way up to current. And you're in a space where no one can judge you. You're in a space where you're just writing thoughts that's in your head, right? You're just writing it. And the therapy is happening, right? And each day you're kind of like, hey, I'm going to dedicate an hour. I'm going to dedicate 45 minutes to that process, right? And I think when COVID came, we all in this world was trying to figure out, what am I doing during this time? Whether I'm learning how to paint, whether I'm cutting the grass, or whatever you're doing. I'm a person that's structured, and I'm a person that every single minute during the day matters to me. So I was dedicating an hour a day towards the journal. And then in that process, a structure organically came, which is where you see the multiple choice, because a lot of times myself, people around me, we're going to come into these different situations and different adversities. And I think it's a skill to be able to say, hold on, how can I pause this movie and think through what can happen next, right? Like the good chess players, the reason why they're elite is because they can think 3 steps ahead. And then where I'm at currently in life, I'm in a space where I have to think 3 steps ahead in every avenue in which I'm traveling, right? So I think that was therapeutic, just on being able to just share that information just throughout times. Even when something happened when you're 18, but you can't share it, or something happened when you're 25 and you can't share it, or scenario made you feel a certain way emotionally that you didn't know you had emotionally, right? Like when I was young, I didn't know what depression was. I didn't know what anxiety was. I didn't know what, right? Like we wasn't in spaces where there was terms for these emotions. Right. And then into adulthood, I'm myself or those close to me, friends that I know, kids that I'm dealing with, right? They're dealing with these traumas and these subject base, right? Like you see guys now where you see a dog and there's an emotional dog, right? And I could look throughout my program and say, wow, like as these guys are in adulthood and we're still communicating, I'm learning like there's 5, 6, 7 of these guys who have this emotional dog. And there's nothing wrong with them. It's just something they're going through in life, and why, right? Because maybe someone didn't open that door for them to be able to converse those emotions that they're going through. But it just literally started with a pen and a piece of paper, a notebook, right?
So like COVID blessed you, because that's when you had the time to actually sit down and write this book. Because there's no way you got time to sit down and write a fucking book.
You see? I mean,
I know this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, you think about the blessing that I had, right? Where COVID came, and then from an AAU standpoint, we were able to send 12 kids Division I, the 2021 class. So I didn't miss a beat with that, right? My number one.
List those guys?
It's on my phone, but it was probably AJ Griffin, Mac Etienne, Frank Kepnick, Drisa, Andre Washington, Malachi, Jaquan, Ahmad went to Cornell.
Sanders, right?
Jaquan Carlos. He's at Hofstra now. But yeah, 12 of them guys went Division I in all different levels, right?
Yeah.
And for me, so that made sure that my quota was filled.
Yeah.
From an AAU director standpoint. And then how often does time get to, in a sense, pause? And to your point, like, I don't know how I would have maneuvered this process had I been doing everything I'm doing, because nothing was subtracted from my life, right? Which is why, everything I'm doing now, you see multitask, you see multiple things going on, you see 3-4 things going on. So you're chopping up your day now to even, insert this, right? And I call it, like, this book to me is the COVID baby, right? And people were having physical, real life COVID babies, right? At that time, you see a lot of women coming out pregnant because that's what they were doing with their time. For me, this was one of those, hey, this is my COVID baby, but it also gives you something forever to remember that time in America, but take it in a positive spin, right? See the glass half full for me, right? Like, this is something that came out of that time. I'm probably never get that time back to do another one.
Right.
But now that we here, we got something to come out.
Never say never, right?
You never know what happens.
Thought you was gonna do this,
exactly,
right?
Exactly.
I know that.
So admittedly, I'm such a bad host, but by the way, here's the book. We're gonna put the link on Amazon in the bio.
Is out, man. Go on Amazon and cop that.
But yours won't come with a special note like mine, but still buy it, please.
You never know.
But so admittedly, I haven't read this yet, and I can't wait to read this. I'm going to read this on the train every day, most likely. But one of the things you talked about in it that I read in a great interview you had with Slam was the pass for pass concept. Okay, talk about that, because that was fascinating to me.
That was one of my favorite entries, man. Like, I grew up in a time frame, and it's still going on today, where you're dealing with athletes, regardless of sport, right? And if you're a star athlete, whether it's middle school, high school, and it trickles up to college, a lot of times structures are set up where, in a sense, the adults are failing the young men because they're giving you this out, right? And what I meant by that was, if you look at the term pass, but it really turns into, like, maybe you're the best scorer on the team, maybe you're the best soccer player on the team, right? You come up and you're allowed it time and space to slack off, because the teachers, which leads to the professors in these different institutions, start to say, I'm gonna turn a blind eye towards what you're doing academically, right? So what it means is, hey, just pass, but you're gonna pass the class. Right. Yeah. So these athletes are going through this, and they think they're getting over, right? When I was in high school, I went through that. You're gonna see that in the book. You're gonna read it, and it's gonna say, like, yeah, I was able to cut class, I was able to come late, I was able to,
we all had those privileges.
Yeah, we had them but you're the 10th man on the team, you don't get that privilege, right?
Exactly.
The quote unquote star, at whatever level it might be, right? He or she gets these different corners to be cut, right? And what I'm trying to get guys to read and say, hold on, is that actually good for me, right? To take that shortcut, to cut that path. And if you're trying to get the educators to say, whoa, I don't want to do that anymore, right? I want to make guys earn something. I want to prepare them for the next step, because if I work my hardest and I get a C-, I can live with that. But if I did no work and I got a B+, at some point that doesn't translate to the real world. And where we're at, the day-to-day operations of life, it requires you to come and do the labor, right? You don't just not show up to work and you get your money. So we're setting them up for failure. And it starts with that, right? Middle school, just pass and pass. So yeah, that's kind of where that concept came from. It was like,
that's happening on an everyday basis everywhere.
Yeah, it's
everywhere.
Yeah.
And it starts with, honestly, if that's gonna happen, where the educators are allowing it, we have to be so mature at 16, 17, 18.
To make sure we're getting everything that we can out of it, instead of just being lazy. And
our natural aura of people is, we don't wake up in the morning and say, I want to go to work.
Right.
It's like, oh, I have to because I want to get paid. Right. And that's what the education.
Yeah.
Don't necessarily chase
Definitely don't apply ourselves.
You know what I think that's cool that you two have in common? Both started out as teachers in the Bronx.
I started in Harlem.
Oh, Harlem, excuse me. But either way, he's always said this to me. He's been like a big advocate of this, that education is the most powerful thing in the world.
Knowledge, yeah.
And you embody that.
Knowledge, information, that's powerful, right? Like everything we doing. Like you can't, if you're into stocks, if you're into real estate, it's gonna be some type of educational situation you need to be, versed in.
Yeah.
Right. So yeah, it's important. It's not all about how many degrees you have. It's about the knowledge, the information, and how you apply it. Yeah. Right? Like you can have 7 masters or whatever, PhD and everything, but you got no common sense. So you got to mix it all in. Right.
Right. That's a fact. Can you explain the little pun on or play on words here we have with our PSA?
I mean, it's a double entendre, right?
Yeah.
Our PSA, ProScholar Athletics, it's the non-for-profit, it's the AAU side, it's the blood, sweat, and tears, right? It's something that myself and my guys, you know, shout out to all of them dudes that I work with every single day, right? We put our hands in the mud and we grew something that's ours, right? I'm the director. Our name on the paperwork, it's our nonprofit, right? And it's when you get to the double entendre, public service announcement playing on PSA, but ours is the storyline is ours, right? It's the journey of majority of the time the Black man, Latino man in America and what we go through, right? And all of these different subject base. And, you know, I go as far as to say, listen, it's ours, like as in PSA's journey, but then to the outside world, our journey, right? And it's not just this storyline is not just me. Yeah. When someone reads it, they're like, "Yeah, I'm going through that. Yeah, I went through that." You know what I mean? Like
I read the first few pages, and I was like, "Damn, very similar to how I came."
Yeah, it's right on, and we start to see generational traumas or generational subjects and generational actions, and how do you stop that? Right? Like can't keep going. So I felt like it would be good, and sometimes it backfires on you. Because competition and grassroots is so heavy in people's brain that they think PSA as in like, this is a story about the AAU side. And I tell people all the time, it's not an AAU book, right?
Because you got so much to tell on that.
Yeah.
They don't even understand the other side of it. Yeah.
Yeah, they want to hear that, you know, that gossip in a sense, right? And I'm not into that. And this is, once you get into it, you're like, oh, I get it. This is different. This is about life, right? And I think sometimes the PSA part can grab people to say, I want to support. And other times the PSA part, if you cover that hour up, it creates this animosity and this jealousy at times and a competitive nature that people have in the basketball world. Mm-hmm. And then it takes them a little bit longer to be like, let me go to Amazon and get it, or let me read it. And let me just open the book and see what's in it. Because once you open it and you like, oh, this don't got nothing to do with what I'm trying to compete against, right? He's talking for me and I'm talking to him. So yeah, I mean that's why it's the double, and it's also a shout out to the program,
yeah,
right. And it's, you know, it's keeping that entity moving, that brand.
Mm-hmm. So for some of our viewers that may not know, PSA just was created, and I mean that name, right? Talk about the switch from where it came from in Team Scan, because when I knew AAU and him as the director, it was called Team Scan.
Wow.
And then it switched to PSA. I mean, I've been a fan before PSA, so that's why I just want to know about that switch.
Yeah, the switch was heavy, man. I mean, I think when we were Team Scan, we were moving. The train was going. It was a smooth ride, but ultimately we answered to someone else, right? It was Scan, the agency, Scan, the nonprofit. And then you come a point in time where, you know, your beliefs and someone else's beliefs might not be aligned at that particular time. It's not malice, or it's not animosity towards anyone individually, right? Or as an agency, you grow, and when you read the book, you're gonna read that, right? White Mentor, and times where you're like, hey, this is what I'm ready to do, and I want to go from elevated on the 7th floor to the 12th, and I need to go. And at times you're asking for permission, right? And I'm not great at asking for permission for my own drive, and then our drive, right? The people that I'm surrounded by, they're giving their blood, sweat, and tears. So when you switch and say, all right, well, if you don't want elevator to go to 12, then we got to part ways, right? And when we part ways, changing the name, you know, Blue Magic is Blue Magic, right? You take every kid stays still, every adult stays still, and you learn that it's not a name that produces this stuff. It's the people, it's the entity, it's the structure, they tell you in business to surround yourself by people that are smarter than you, right? And I'm fortunate enough in my journey in life, in my journey in nonprofit, in my journey at AAU, that the guys around me are super intelligent, super charismatic. They're thinkers, right? Just they see things, and even stuff that at times I don't see, right? But that's when the change came. It was just like, hey, if you want to keep this name, you got to do A. And I'm like, no, I'm going to do B, C, D, E, F for the kids, right? And we're going to just keep going. And Nike was behind us. You know, we switched the name and we kept it going. Like they were alerted early enough to say, hey, listen, this is what we going through. This is what we thinking. And I love that time frame because that time frame lend itself to the grassroots world attempting to convince you that you needed them, right? Attempting to say, hey, come under our umbrella, right? Or, hey, you look like you're vulnerable, and how do I benefit from your vulnerability? Versus, hey, can I get a helping hand, right? And going back to like my times at Wesleyan University, my times at Holderness School, like these different platforms, I even seen the opposite race come and say, I got help. What do y'all need? Do you need a gym? Do you need fundraising money? Whatever you need, we're here, right? And my people kind of just was like, oh, wow, this is a chance they might fall off, right? And you get a chance to see that. Like when they tell you kick a dog when he's down, right? And at that time, mentally, they thought we were down, but physically, it was as strong as ever. You seen loyalty, right? You seen kids and families say, oh, word, we leaving? Where we going? Right? It wasn't
on to the next.
Oh, it was where we going? What's the name? Put the uniforms on. Let's go. Right. And now you take one brand and you make another brand, and it's like, oh, what we got works. You can change it to Blue Devils tomorrow if you keep the people in the structure and the right family structure. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that was the journey, man. And I'm so happy that we stepped out that box. Like one of my good friends, Andre Charles, used to always say, you could be a millionaire if you wanted to. You just got to bet on yourself. And this is like PSA is betting on myself. And I didn't know how much power it was going to give me to say, hey, I'm an executive director of a non-for-profit. Obviously, come with rules and regulations, right? But if you follow them, your legacy is, hey, I did that. And you're going to see in the book, it's going to break down the things that I've been able to accomplish, right? And that's one of them where you can lay your hat and say, I ran a non-for-profit. That was mine, right? I don't go to work every day for someone else and build their brand every day. We build this brand every single day, and people have stocks in that brand. They have percentages in that brand in a sense, you know? Mm-hmm. So that's what happened.
Big time. Well put.
I want to go back to that pass for pass type conversation because I like that stuff. And one of the things it kind of makes me think of, and I always love asking people like you about this. How do you think NIL has changed the mindset of what I would say is a very impressionable age of young, mostly men, who are now getting involved in this world, like I said, at a young age?
Yeah, I just was answering this question with an interview with ESPN like 3 days ago. And I think NIL, from a high school standpoint, changed mindsets for a small percentage, right? Like you're top 10, top 15, top 20 kids.
It's always less than
you're gonna get these opportunities, and they're gonna range, right? Some is just gonna be materialistic, some is gonna be money, some gonna be, different sneakers, whatever it could be. But one of the scary parts is what's our why, right? And if the younger generation's why is, hey, I want this NIL deal, which is in a sense, I want the money, right? And I'm closer to this money of NIL than I am to NBA overseas or wherever the first professional check is going to be. I think the main thing has to be the main thing. So I'm preaching to guys, especially the guys in my program. You don't got no game. You don't deserve no NIL, right? And forget your social media platform if you're not out here doing anything, because regardless, you still got to go perform, right? I think from the college perspective, that's an entire another ball game, right? Like you're able to, in a sense, get compensated for your production, right? So you're gonna see
that's like being a pro.
Yeah, you as close as you can.
Play, you getting paid. That's different.
No, 1,000%. And guys are gonna learn. Hold on, what is my numbers equal, right? And they're gonna test the waters and see what's out there before they decide on a given university. My thing to those guys is, listen, that's fine, but you got to get a degree. Right, because injuries occur, right? Bad contracts happen overseas. Like, it literally does. And I'm fortunate enough to be able to have smart young men in college where they listen and say, all right, I hear that, but we still doing this, right? Get your NIL money, but don't make it be the money you got to pay to get them last 3 classes, right? Don't have to use that NIL money. But I mean, I think is what change is inevitable, right? I think it's a part of the game now that's heavy, but yeah, you got to be able to keep it under control. I think the dynamic that most people are not looking into is when you're a young kid, 16, 17, 18, and you're receiving NIL compensation, and these funds are, the money is hiding your parents' income or those who take care of you. What's the dynamics in the household when a father or a mother or a grandmother or aunt can't really police what you doing, because now you physically fend for yourself, right? Mm-hmm. Like majority of the time, you're gonna grow up listening to the adult because the adult provides the materialistic objects for you. Yeah. He provides the food, provides the housing, the clothing, all of that type of stuff, pays your tuition. If kids start making a certain amount and he tells mommy, dad, auntie, or uncle, I don't need you for that. I'm paying for my own Uber. I'm buying my own car. I'm going to get my own 1-bedroom apartment. I'm moving out. You know what I mean? You can start becoming an adult at 17, but you don't have any adult traits, right? You don't know how to pay bills. You don't know how to budget money, all of these things. So I think that's the scariest part, when you take parenting away from a household because money came in. And a lot of people in our culture sometimes don't know how to handle money that comes in that fast.
Yeah.
You hit it right on the nose. So it's a lot of dynamics, man. And, those kids who getting that type of money, like, who they gonna listen to? Mm-hmm. You gotta be somebody making more money than them for them to take you serious.
Yeah.
How many guys out here, you can talk about a kid, if a kid making 80,000 and his so-called handler making 20, and he knows you look like 20,000 or 30,000, he might stop listening to you. Right. So who are you listening to?
We all need guidance, especially these kids. That's a fact.
It's a dangerous world.
It really is. Yeah. I just think you said it. NIL has a lot of great aspects to it. I think, especially at the college level, for a lot of these kids who 99% of the kids aren't going to the NBA or NFL. So it's like, now that those 99% have a route to compensate off themselves, to me, that's great. But the downsides that have come from it is it's harder to learn how to fail, right? Because at the way the college level used to be, it feels like when I was like really a fan of college sports, like 05 Carolina, 09 Carolina, like all my favorite teams back in the day, it was like the only thing that was on those dudes' minds. Championship.
Winning the chip.
Championship. Now it's,
which school gonna give me the biggest bag?
It's individual.
You see what I'm saying? And I never want to sound like insensitive. Like, sometimes a kid just needs money, and that's the biggest priority in their life. And I don't want to sound insensitive to that ever. But as fans and as consumers of the sport, you can't help but wonder how many kids have compromised their career now because of some NIL bag that they think they're going to get or do get or don't get or whatever.
But here's the question, right? And not to go too far into it. These kids aren't getting the money unless the boosters, who are the fans, are providing that money. That's also so true. You're literally saying, I'm gonna be the pacifier for this crybaby.
Right. The irony.
Yeah. Right. And then you sit in the stands and you're complaining. Yeah. Why is he only getting 6 and 5? You probably took all the motivation out of him.
Yeah. Right. You thought he was
a
first rounder.
Yeah. Someone told you because he's ranked 12, he should get this, and you did it. I get it. You're supporting your school.
Yeah.
But now this kid has a lot more going on.
Now it's much harder to coach a kid who's got $500,000 in the bank account than a kid who's got dreams of being a top draft pick.
It's hard to get better when you got $500,000 in your bank account and you're a kid.
It is, but I don't want to sound like we're picking on these kids. Like, I don't want to sound like some salty dude just sitting here. Like, if a kid gets money, good for you.
There's pros and cons to everything.
Exactly, pros and cons. All right, but let's talk a little more hoops because we've talked a lot of stuff here so far. But best player to come out of PSA Cardinals?
Tough question, man. Depends on how you're looking at the kid.
Your opinion.
And my point. I mean, I'm gonna go with pure production, and I'm gonna say Shaq Diallo. Right? Like, I think it's something to be said about a kid who's arguably 20-10 for 2 years in a row on EYBL, same numbers in high school. Like, you just know what you're gonna get, right? Like, I mean, obviously we've had great players, but bang for your buck, production, just consistency. Every single game he gonna give you this, right? Like, even the best gonna have some 3-4 bad games on that circuit. I mean, you got 2 years of a warrior, right? 16U, 17U playing up, dominating. And you've seen it in the McDonald's game, right? McDonald's MVP, Jordan Brand MVP, Hoop Summit, all that type of stuff. So you're looking at somebody that's just like, wherever I'm at, I'm a killer.
Chuck went to Kentucky, right?
He went to Kansas.
Yeah,
did 6 months.
No.
6 months.
Right. I remember him playing with the Pelicans. Check this.
And so Ty Jerome,
Love him.
yeah.
Shout out Ty Jerome. That's
So,
my
Shout
guy.
out to
I remember
Ty.
watching-
Ty's
That's my
killing,
guy.
You know, that's been my family.
Yeah, that's my guy.
Shout out to Mark, too,
Yes.
family.
I remember watching Ty Jerome at New Rochelle High School, or excuse me, in New Rochelle at Iona Prep High School. And I just remember watching this kid shoot the ball and just saying, holy shit, that might be one of the most pure jump shots
Yeah.
I've ever seen.
Better person than a basketball player.
Yeah.
That's what I love about him, man.
Good,
He's pure.
good kid.
And shout out to Ty. I mean, he donated, even this past spring, summer, donated some stuff to the, I want to say the 16U team. You know, just always there. Yeah. He donated some books, sent them to my house, took him over to Iona Prep. So he still gets it, you know, and a bunch of those guys, Cole Anthony did it, Tyson Etienne did it, Cole, just a bunch of them. When the book came out, they was just like, look, how can I help? Right. And I'm like, look, you know what? Let's connect the dots of it being bigger than you or me, right? Like,
and let the kids get the book.
Come on, show your alma mater some love, right? Like, and you start to see it, and it's like, oh, he donated, and people seeing it, it's like, oh wow, like all these kids, AJ Griffin, right? Donate some, step in that, get there. So it's a beautiful thing when you're able to say, listen, it's not just about giving back to Munch. It's about you continuing to build your legacy and being selfless. Right. So I think that's stuff that's being taught in our program, but then it's also going around the world with people. Right. And it's like these guys, Joe Toussaint, right? He's on an NIL deal and he's like, hey, Munch, I want to donate 10 books to someone.
Shout out to Joe.
Consume Yahweh. Right. Like there's so many PSA alumni who tapped in to say, I could buy 50 books and, you know, or I could buy some and give. Right. And that's where I feel good about it. Like, hey, I've done a lot for a lot of people, and these kids, these young men, they get it.
Yeah.
Right. A couple $100. Like, Joe, you still in college.
Yeah.
Right. Like Tyson, you in the G League. Like, it's not like they rich. Right. They still saying, what do you need, Munch? Right. Like, how can we help?
That one thing stands out. No. They never forgot where they came from.
Yeah. Pure humans, man. Yeah. Pure humans. Love them.
That's the one thing I always felt about Joe. When we were around Joe Toussaint, this was the COVID summer when I was really around him the most. Nobody wanted to be in the gym, like nobody. And I don't blame anyone for, you know, it was a weird time in the world. But this guy, he was there 7 a.m. every day. Shavar Newkirk.
You got to stay with them PSA guys.
But what always stood out about Joe, like, really was the character, just like how stand up of a dude he was. And I never met you, but it's like, you know, shout out Joe's parents, of course. But a lot of that, I'm sure comes from you. Do you ever think like, you know, and you're a humble guy, so it's like, I don't mean to like put you on the spot here, but do you ever like think about how far your effect in this world has gone, especially when you bring up this like pay it forward mindset?
Yeah, I mean, good friend Justin Webb, man, he always goes, you know, going to turn 1 into 2, 2 into 10, 10, and you do the math, right? And you create stuff. And even in college, you see they got these trees, right? The Bill Self tree and the Coach K tree. And now we're getting that from a college space, but it's a beautiful thing when your people win, right? Like, I'm big on you to my right, you to my left, you behind, you in front, you're going to win. And it might be you're going to win as a trainer. You're going to win as a teacher. You're going to win. Like, I got guys who teaching now, and I'm like, all right, what you need, right? Guys who run in a high school program, what you need, right? Like, just when they young and we all coming up in the grind together, where it's like, all right, you making it, how can we elevate you? So I do take a little bit of time to be like, when I see it happen, like, oh, that's dope. He did that, right? Like, you became a father, and you know, how did you go about that? You calling me to ask how do you propose to your wife? Right. Like, it's not just the basketball stuff. So when you mentoring men and they're giving back, right? Like, it's a priceless thing when you can call a kid who's at Dartmouth and he's, you know, mentoring a kid that's looking at the Ivy League, right? Like, you can call Jaden Reeves and say, hey man, you in the Ivy League, Maxwell Local, you in the Ivy League. We got Jaden Williams, and he looking at all these schools. And when he come to campus, you need to be there to usher him in and make sure that on his visit, he get what's real, right? And having a kid at Yale, having a kid at Cornell, like, you covering so much land where guys are getting real answers, and having them kids come back, right? And sit in and say, I don't got to say it. You tell them what it is, right? You tell them what you're going through today. So
ultimately answering the question of the most important decision in their life and picking the right school. Yeah. Because we know that shit right there.
Make or break you, baby.
There you go.
That'll make or break you, baby.
Life.
Yeah. But yeah, to answer your question, I mean, I think sometimes I do say like we because it's not me, man. I think people give me so much credit as quote unquote the face, but there's a lot of, like I said, geniuses around me in different forms. Yeah. And I say like what we did, we cemented our time, our legacy in the history of New York City, if not the country, right? Like if you look at the history, you say, all right, well, there's the Gauchos, there's Riverside, and then there's who, right? Like there's a question mark, whether it's the Panthers, but when we done, I could say comfortably, like PSA had their run and they did the right thing by their kids, right? They all went to college. They all got, some of them got masters, some of them got real life jobs overseas. Most of them, you know what I mean? NBA. Yeah, like some going to the league, like you're able to sleep at night knowing like what happened with your time, right? Like when you go back as a man and you start looking at your time, you want to say this time frame to this time frame, what did I do? And that's what's so scary about COVID. People just lost a year, maybe two, and don't remember what did I do during that time. I woke up, fell asleep, went back to sleep, woke up again, ate, went back to sleep. And for 365, you literally have nothing to show, which is why the book is so powerful to me, because I'm like, whoa, I know what I did during that time, right? Like, never forget that. Come on, it happened. It turned into something. So
there were definitely winners and losers of COVID. Like people who took advantage of that time of like the uncertainty to figure out the right things. And there were people who just did the opposite.
But it's a tricky concept though, man, because I think some of our mindset was, shit, I'm just trying to stay alive. Yeah. Like that's my win. I'm here. You know what I mean? Like you seeing so many people pass.
Right.
All you trying to say is, hold on, I'm alive today. Thank you. Right. Thank you, Lord. And that was the win. Like, I'm
staying put. We're staying safe.
You know what I mean? Yeah, so that's the winner.
COVID, dare I say, was the rebirth of co-world training.
Facts. My stuff created through COVID. I retired from being a teacher.
Yeah, I seen it, man. The footage was running through my phone. I'm in here, Munch. I'm in here. Go.
I remember when like COVID first started, was like kind of right when I started hanging out with him a lot more and like working on the co-world training stuff. And we didn't even have a gym to train in. We would literally
training.
He was a door, like the same way like you could be like a door-to-door like insurance salesman. He was a door-to-door trainer, and he and I would drive around together through these neighborhoods in Jersey, and we would just get out, train a kid in his driveway, get back in the car, train another kid. And, like looking back on it, like those were truly some of the best memories of my life, just because we had no idea what was going on in the world, but what brought us something. We had ball, you know.
Listen, I feel like that stuff makes the journey so much better. Yeah. Right. Like you going when that clothing line becomes as popular as the Prada and the Gucci or whatever, he gonna always remember like, oh, this is how we started. Yeah. So I got that in me. That gene is in me. Like I remember starting up the program, we throwing out flyers. Yeah. Right. We knocking on doors. We putting it underneath the door. Like we going to school. So like, right. And that grind, you see it today, right? When you saying, hey, Munch, I just seen you at Hayes. I just seen you at Fordham. I just seen you going to Columbia. You going to St. John's. Like once you got that work ethic, it's going to be in every and anything that you do. Like you're like, nah, I know how to win. I know how to get it out the mud, and that's what I'm gonna do. Like for everything, like you could tell me to sell lollipops, I'm gonna figure it out, right? Because you built from that, and that came from when you like as you read the book, you're gonna read the story about my mom, how we came up and how she grinded it out, you know, welfare and single parent and figured it out, right? And you when you get to adulthood, you're like, how did she do that, right? Like, and she did that on the muscle of I'm gonna figure it out, right? No education level. You know, no handouts. You just whatever, $63 a month. You figured out how to raise 4 kids in society, right? And if I'm looking and saying, hold on, I know where my hustle come from, right? Like it ain't come from pops. It ain't come from a mentor. It ain't come Mom Dukes. If she can pull that off, I can do it. It's in me, right? It's like it's no turning back. Yeah. It's already in me. You just got to figure out how to do it and do it in a respectful manner, right? Which is why the book gonna sell, right? Like. You go to Barnes and Nobles and you see books sitting there. It's stale. It's just no movement. Like how many of these things just gonna happen to sell by themselves? And you see our PSA and you like, hold on. I see it on social. I see it in hands. I see it in gyms. I see it in churches. Oh, it's in libraries. It's you know, I'm not waiting for permission. Listen, what we doing? You need this. You know what I'm saying? It's the game, right? It's no different.
man, you're giving me goosebumps right now. But you talk about your mom, like we all have moments. I like to think where like the light bulb goes on, where we have that moment where like we realize, oh shit, maybe my dad, maybe my mom, maybe they knew what they were talking about there.
Yeah.
I feel like you probably had a couple of those with your mom.
Listen, man, shout out to my mom, man. I'll tell you like this. I knew my mom was elite when I'm coming in the house and she said, baby, you need something, as in finances. That's when I knew the whole movie did a 360, right? Like we talking about, like I said, from the nothing in the fridge, man. You eating air, right? Like that's what you doing. You eating air, you getting them refund cans out the street, and you figuring out how to take them back. You get 30 cents, you trying to figure out how to get that to get a squeegee to clean the cars. You get $1.50 from that. You get a paper route, whatever every angle you could, right? Yeah. And all moms was saying was figure it out. When you come home, there's gonna be some chicken backs in here for you. And if anybody know chicken back, that thing is just skin, right? Like that's what it was. It was the cheapest chicken in the supermarket, right? But you had something, whatever, air and chicken backs. To today, I'm coming in the house and she know I got chicken. She know that, right? She know it. So now she jokingly, baby, do you need anything? And without her saying, that's her way of saying, I'm gonna pay you back for holding it down when you were coming up, right? And it's me saying, wow, mama, I see you. Like I see you made it. Like you're the one. You're independent now. And I give you that energy of like, shit, if she could do that, I'm unstoppable out here. You know?
I do love the cover art too.
Hard copy, bro. The cover, I'm gonna wait till we get on. Yeah. Oh, listen, the cover. I got Andre Charles in-house. Everything in-house work.
Really?
What? Best friend. Right there. He did the cover.
Andre Charles.
The photo.
Teacher?
No. Education heavy. He did the photo when we was at a basketball practice, and when it was time to do the cover, I called on him like, hey, bro, I need you to hold me down. Because I'm trying to keep everything in-house where it's ours, right? Like just anything from the editor to the cover. You know, people, I ain't go soft copy. No, you're going to go quality, right? Cut the price, whatever it's going to be. But you got to give people quality. But it's a memory for me where I can look at that cover and say, one of my best friends in the world, he created this. So people can see it. You know, he got his love inside the book too. And he wanted to do it on the arm, right? No, I'm not giving you nothing. But like I said, you got to give somebody something for their time. Yeah. It's a small amount of respect, right? So
there's someone you want to shout out, yeah?
Oh, big shout out to Oprah Winfrey. Listen, you get a book. You know, Wallow and Gilly, if you're watching, call me up. Stephen A. Jackson, just everybody that got something going on. Earn Your Leisure. I'm here, man. I'm trying to make a lot of noise.
We're getting this book out to the world. Yeah. You hear that? That's our PSA.
Yeah, for us, by us, FUBU, right? It's going to be, I think it has the potential to be the hottest urban book in the country. You know, I think it's something unique. The structure of it, the content, the design of it, right? Like there's no page numbers. And people say, oh, why you don't got no page numbers? It's because when you read, traditionally, people tell you have to read chapter 1 to chapter 2 to chapter 3 and understand the chapters. But the way the journal-based subjects, they flip around. So you can go any place you want to go, right? So you don't have to feel caged in your read. Each read 2 pages. Why? Because people have this phobia of I got to read 17 pages to get what I want to get out of it. 2 pages and it starts endless conversations. Like we're trying to get the conversation, especially since COVID, versus just to read, right? You know, audio people, I want to listen. It's like, all right, well, just read 2 pages, take you 10 minutes. And if you read it in a group, it's going to be even more powerful because now you start these conversations and you're learning about people's, you know, track records and how they came to that conclusion, which is where you get the multiple choice element, right? Would I do A? Would you do B? Would Jay do C? And now the word why comes up, right? Why would you have done that? And now you're learning that the reason why he came to that conclusion is because of his life circumstances, his upbringing, what he's seen in the world, what he's experienced in the world. Same thing with you, same thing with myself. But now we're exchanging ideas. So when that scenario might occur in our life, we can pause the movie and make the best decision we can, right? And now I'm doing workshops with kids. I'm allowing them to say, this book says A, B, C, D. What would be your F? What would be your E? And just having all of these tools, because coming up when I was younger, we had 1 tool. Somebody stepped on your J's, fuck him up. Somebody disrespect you in the office, beat his ass. It was all physical violence of that nature for your respect because your ego was hurt in different forms of fashion.
Pride always showed up.
The pride is hurt, right? And now we're learning like, damn, we got these emotions And we can't just physically just go smack someone every single situation.
Yeah.
We got to outthink them. We got to think about when we do this, this is what's going to happen. For every action, there's a reaction. And all I'm trying to do is get our people to pause, right? And then if you look at it from a cross culture, when COVID was here, it was so many. The difference to me was Caucasian folks saying, I'm not against you, Black folks. I just don't understand what you're going through. I don't understand your story. Mm-hmm. And Black folks saying, even if you don't understand my story, get on this ride with me, right? Stand and march with me, stand and walk with me. And it wasn't that. This is going to give you the inside track of what Jason's going through, what I'm going through, what you probably went through, right? Mm-hmm. Similarly, man, you got pulled over by the cops before for speeding, right?
Yeah, and I'll tell that story, yeah.
Right, but it's all about, it's not the fact that you're going to get pulled over. Your nephew's going to get pulled over. Yeah. His nephew's going to get pulled over. But what happens when that happens? How do you react?
Yeah, I think that's what stood out for me for the book. Nobody is actually talking about these things.
Yeah.
Much less putting it in a book.
Heavy.
So if we're not even comfortable speaking out loud about some of these circumstances you put in this book, right, then how could one write a book about it? So when he says he think it got the potential to be one of the best in the culture, I might agree with him because I read a few chapters, pages, just being on a plane, and I could relate and basically take 100 conversations out of everything I've already read, and I haven't even finished the book.
Mm-hmm. It's the journey, man, and having that ability. In no book that's out can you go, I'm gonna go entry 1, I'm gonna go 59 and not lose something. Mm-hmm. You go in there and say what I want to read about, and it starts the conversation, right? Jay got a young man, a young lady living in his household. The concept of baby boy, of when is it time to get out, right? Who dictates that, right? What's the right age when a mom or a dad is telling their son, it's time for you to go? 2 men can't live in this household, right? Is it 17? Is it 18? Is it 19? Who knows? But there's this unwritten rule that you got to get out, right? And it's that baby boy syndrome that we go through, right? Some get out quicker. Some are not prepared. Some are prepared. Some stay longer, right? And if you're staying at a certain age, society is telling you you're not a real man because you're living with your mom. When you don't even know these different circumstances might be, I'm taking care of my mom. Yeah. I'm paying the house. I'm paying the mortgage. I'm paying the car note. She's not healthy. So you're looking on the outside judging, right? Judging a book by its cover. So it's these type of scenarios that's all through it, right? Mm-hmm. Like I said, dealing with depression, dealing with anxiety, what's real manhood, right? That's a heavy, heavy subject that we all trying to figure out, right? And it's no rules to that. We all trying to figure out how to be the best men we can be every single day, right? And having that journey and some questions to that, and then sharing those questions. Mm-hmm. And when you get groups of people, man, you get up in the morning and it's blood thicker than water, right? Like we always, blood thicker than water, is it? And now you're reading that with 10 of your best friends. And for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, we're having these conversations about it. Yeah. And as grown men, that's what I want to talk about. So now when I'm in these gyms, I don't want to just talk about how many 3 balls Chopper just hit. I want to talk about, man, I know you didn't do that schoolwork and you got that A-. How did that make you feel?
You want to relate to them.
Yeah, we want to talk about more because life, basketball is 2 hours a day. Sometimes for the best of them. It's 22 more hours, man. What are we doing?
Take advantage of every minute of every day.
Yeah. I think we should start a book club. I'm being dead ass.
It's nothing going to stop you, man.
Like a friends of friends book club.
Be a friend of a friend.
This could be the inaugural book. Yeah. But that's funny you say that though, about like the no page numbers. Because I totally do that when I'm reading a book. I'll be like, I gotta get to page 30 by the end of like.
I definitely say that.
Yeah. And like why?
I'm gonna at least, I don't give myself a time limit. I say I'm gonna read 40 pages.
Yes. I'm gonna read chapter 3. And that's it. That's it. Right? Like I gotta go.
I read a chapter.
Yeah, I gotta go. I got something else to do. But in this, it's like I'm gonna read for 10, but I gotta talk to someone. I gotta share what I did in that scenario, right? To cheat or to not cheat. When you get down to that, you like, oh man, what's gonna happen in this space, right? What did I do? And people, Munch, what did you do? It's not about what I did in every scenario. It's about what you would do, because I didn't make every right decision, right? Because when they tell you when you're a boy, you think as a boy. When you're a man, you think as a man. The decisions I made at 17, I would have probably done something different when my brain really was starting to excel at 27, right? Or 28. And I got different world knowledge to say, oh, that's corny, right? Like you don't want to do that. That's you just putting yourself in a bad space. You hop in the train. How often you going to do it? Take that chance. Right. You hop in the train with 300 in your pocket. is that a smart decision?
Mm-hmm.
Did you play it out to say, what if I do this? I'm a pessimist by nature. I'm just telling you, I'm a pessimist by nature. So I'm constantly thinking what can go wrong before I think what can go right, which makes me make good decisions. I know it's going to go right.
I always think like that.
Do you think there could be drawbacks to that?
The being a pessimist?
Yeah.
Yeah, you might be scared to be a daredevil, scared to jump. Like,
and you got to take risks.
I mean? Yeah, I don't play around with bungee jumping. I don't play. That ain't my thing, right? But it's definitely going to be setbacks at times because you could be overthinking things instead of just saying, let me go deal with this.
Yeah.
But one thing I know, you stay out of a lot more trouble when you think about what can go wrong. Or you prepare for when you make the jump, right? Mm-hmm. I'm going to make the jump. And if that happens, I already know what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
Because this could go left.
You got to have a solution for it.
Right? You got to think that through.
You gotta
and
have
it can't.
Solution for left turns.
Yeah, you got to take time when you about to make that U-turn.
Yeah.
If you pull up, what I'm going to say? Oh, my seatbelt is good. My phone is down. What I'm going to say? Right? But you got to prepare. And that's all we're trying to do. We're trying to buy ourselves time to prepare for the answer we want to give.
Yeah.
And then walk that.
You know why I try and not be a pessimist?
Yeah.
But that makes sense what you're saying. Like I hear that and I'm like, shit, you got a point.
Right.
But the reason I try to not be a pessimist is because I heard a quote about like 2 years ago that changed my life. It was, life is not a problem to be solved. It's a mystery to be experienced.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And ever since I heard that, I always took a step back in my life. And every time a problem comes up, I try and just be an observer. Yeah. Right. And I try and understand that like feelings, and good moments, bad moments, like these are all just things like going by on like a conveyor belt. Yeah. Right. Like, the all you can eat sushi places where like the conveyor belt goes by and you can grab, right? Like it's there, you can take it. It's there, you can leave it. Yeah. Like everything's gonna come and go. And so ever since I heard that, I've kind of just like I find peace in just being an observer of life and understanding that like very few feelings in this world are truly like real, right? Like in my opinion, like pain, right? That's probably pain and regret to me are the two most real feelings in the world. Because those are two of the feelings that can derail someone.
Do you think hunger is a real feeling?
Do I think hunger is a real feeling?
Real hunger.
I think hunger could probably be a feeling. Yeah. I don't doubt that, but like.
But food is addictive, so it depends on.
Well, I'm thinking you probably mean like mental
hunger,
right?
I'm talking both.
You're talking both?
Yeah, I'm talking both.
Okay, well, sure. Those are physically real feelings, but I'm talking more feelings like, emotional feelings. Yeah. But like to your point, like hunger, call it determination, maybe more so than hunger. But I just feel like there are only so many feelings that you should allow to take you off your path, which is why I love just being like an observer. You know what I'm saying?
The issue for me personally is I deal with a lot of people and a lot of people's lives and a lot of problems arrive that in a sense I need to help navigate. So if you sit back and just allow things, you might have a whole boatload of issues. Yeah. And drama. So I try to, I try to make sure that I set up these things where these negatives can't happen, because every day you wake up, just natural life is going to happen. Yeah. So if you're dealing with 150, 200 young men from the ages of 14 to 26, life is happening at different levels every single day, right? So you're trying to teach them all of these ways of prohibiting problems from tackling you. And then calling me, right? Because I could wake up in the morning and have a plan and say, oh yeah, I'm gonna chill and I'm gonna relax and I'm gonna listen to this gospel music and I'm gonna go out on the porch and rock and chair for a little while with this red wine, and then three phone calls happen and she's pregnant and coach just did this to me and the school just did this to me, and I feel like this in this class of I'm the only Black kid and I don't have a voice in this small boarding school. Like there's a lot that occur. So I wish I could. I'm gonna try to get to that point. Yeah, I'm gonna try to get to that point. I like it.
I'm not saying
I gotta step away from grassroots.
I'm not saying I'm always great at doing it, but I just say that's what I aim to be.
It's times.
Are you religious?
I believe in God. I believe in God and trying my best to do the right thing. I don't necessarily say I have a religion, but I think all religions, to me, not to get all biblical, but they come down to the same thing. Can you do what's right over and over and over.
And even when somebody's not looking.
Just over, you know what I mean? Like, you know what's right and you know what's wrong. When you get to that part, life is a little easier if you continue to do what's right.
Yeah.
We gotta, whatever religion you live, like, a sin is gonna be a sin.
Yeah.
You know what's wrong.
That's a fact.
Right? Like, so I'm trying to focus on just that.
Doing the right thing.
Consistent with that as much as I can.
Yeah. That makes sense.
I like that. Tell me, so who would you recommend to come on the Friends of Friends podcast?
It's a good question.
I'm gonna give you two people. I'm gonna give you, if you're looking from a basketball standpoint.
No, just in your opinion, based on me and Henry.
I think Munch, Jeremy Pridgeon, you guys can Google him, find him somewhere out here.
Mhm.
He's an historian and a savant and someone who's like funny and charismatic and just knows a lot of information. I think he'll be a great individual because he's seen so much from the outside and then seen so much on the inside, but it's not attached to anything. So he can say whatever he wants with no consequences. You know what I mean? Like, at his best.
Those can be the most dangerous but most fun interviews.
Yeah, I think he's somebody I would interview. Let me see.
Yeah, you gotta pass the baton to somebody.
I'm thinking people that I think are sharp, right? Like, you gotta have some level of sharpness to you.
I like that he says that.
I think I'm gonna stay with him for a second.
Cool.
You know, once you get to him, I'll figure someone out. And it's a lot of smart dudes, but I like versatility, not just the conversation of sport. You know
Oh yeah,
what I mean?
for sure. But I mean,
He'll come on and talk about why it's a good thing for marijuana to be legal and why NIL is dope. You know what I mean? He got all type of stuff going on in his brain.
Mm-hmm.
I got two questions for you. Favorite Jordan?
I'm a Jordan 4. The number 4, low top, all colors. And it's funny.
Color stands out. Get out.
Listen, no, I'm saying I love, was it the white and gray cements, right? The cement 4s is crazy. And this is the funny story. Back to my guy, Dre. We roommates on the road in AAU for like the last 10 years. And he would always be like, yo, Jordan's, and he would like explain them. I'm like, man, I don't got time for that, right? And then as I've gotten older, so many different sneakers were coming out that I figured out, like, you know what? J's is my thing. Because I don't know the history of each one, but I know when you step out the house, regardless of where you're going, I could be on Wall Street, right? That's the sneaker that the kids, the adults, cross races, cross gender, everyone respects, right? Like, you could never, no matter how old you are, if you got on J's, it's like, no matter which ones, right? You're good.
Yeah.
And that's what I like the last, I want to say like 3 years, I'm out here, cinnamon, you know, six brand new pairs still sitting at home, and they keep like whatever's, especially colors. I love it.
Favorite EYBL sneaker?
Favorite, you know what's crazy? I'll give you a story of that. I don't own any EYBL sneaker myself. The Kobe, right? The purple, I think it was like purplish EYBL Kobe. Love those. A bunch of colors on it. Yeah, it's like snakeskinish, whatever. But that Kobe, I think, is dope. I would say that. And then for the kids, man, like I said, I personally, like, if you go through my collection, you'd be lucky to find one pair of EYBL kick.
Right. I think my favorite was the copper KDs when he came.
Oh, those are tough. The brown looking.
Yeah,
those are tough. And you know what's crazy for me? I would wear them once and then give them away. But I was getting that one joint. Like, I was pulling up.
Do that shit.
Yeah, I was pulling up with
him. One pair, he got like 5, 6 pairs.
I was giving it to the kids. Like, all my kids is always, they know it's kids first. They always gonna be good. So, like, whether it's 17s down, like, it'd be a coach get them. You my size? Y'all got one good one. I'm rocking it though. One time. Right. I'm pulling up. You know, I'm wearing them when nobody's supposed to be. It's look at what Munch got him on his feet. Like, I learned that in recruiting and being of the culture. Like, that stuff matters for some reason, right? Like, kids want to know, like, dude is clean, right? But on top of that, trumps that is the Gucci.
Favorite team that you coached even before PSA was formulated?
Oh, I mean, you got to get it out the mud. 2014 class.
Woo! That's
yeah,
Shavar's
like
class.
Shavar, McCullough, Conrad, Kev, Nico, Joel, Austrian. Like you talking about
Shout out VAR, man.
yeah. And if you see the logo, the PSA logo, it's 9 guys that went D1, went to school. That was the first 9, right? Like that logo was designed. Shout out to Dre, designed the logo, and it was because of that. That's the first. Like if you look at the little diamonds inside, that's the respect. Hey, y'all was the first group, and that logo created. You know what I mean? Like them dudes is forever, right? Like it's gonna be better talent, better kids, whatever. But you don't forget your first baby. You know what I mean? Them dudes they was in it when it was nobody believing, and they went through it, right? Like what you doing over there? Like that's an after school program. They've heard everything that you can hear on your rise to greatness, but it made them so much better because they were like, we got something to prove. They went out and literally earned a Nike deal. They didn't wait for it. They were like, I was pointing at teams and said, look what they got on. They sponsored and look what we got on. You serious? 20 piece. Who that? Yo, that's the Soldiers. You serious? 20 piece. Yo, that's such and such. They got a deal. Titans on them, 15 on them. Like they came with, we selling candy. We selling raffle tickets. We doing car washes. Like this dude got us working in the gym 5, 6, 7 days a week. Like he putting us through it. We doing study halls, doing SAT prep. We everything you can think of. We in the weight room. We on the track. So it's a big shout out to them, and they stay friends, right? Like what makes it even a better group of on the court is that today those dudes kick it with each other, hang out with each other, support each other. Like they got their different endeavors, and you seen them become men, right? Like you know what you did with. Like I can say I did great in my life. Look at this, right? Like it's not a lot of people that can say that type of stuff.
Who's a coach you looked up to?
From the college? College. I'm a big Duke fan. I bang with Coach K. Heavy.
Shout out Munch.
Yeah, shout out Coach K. And that was like one of them mama made it moments. Being on a recruiting trip and going through the visit for about an hour and a half. Walking around.
AJ Griffin?
No, it was Mo Bamba at the time. And we get to now Coach Caden's not there on the walk, right? You go like an hour and a half, you going through it, they take you to the office. The office obviously is immaculate, right? And he pops in like the great white hope, right? And he's like sitting at the office. He's like, Munch. And I'm like, oh, mama, I made it. You know what I'm saying? He called me the nickname like for the block. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like, hey, Terrance, Coach Williams. It was like Munch, right? I'm like, yeah, I'm here. You done met the guy that you watching, Grant Hill. We playing Coach K on the video. You know what I mean? Like, I'm from that era. Like, yeah, he would be the dude that I'm like, that's the one coach I said like, oh, shit, I'm here now. He know me out here.
Yeah,
like that.
Good question.
I love that. Yeah, he's a good coach.
Yeah. North Carolina.
Top. I get the Carolina. Yeah. We're not gonna talk about that.
Davidson Hayes the other day. We working out. He's like, we made it. Yeah, we got to see that.
One of my best friends is a Carolina fan. We bet on every single game.
Yeah.
Y'all suck this shit.
Yeah.
It's all good though. We're keeping an eye on them.
Yeah. I love that.
You know?
Well, listen, man. Make sure y'all go get this book, man. Our PSA. Shout out to Munch for even coming through to the studio. He's our first guest in studio. Yeah. If you know that you think it's about basketball, no, you're mistaken. Make sure you check this book out. You can read any chapter you want at any given time.
Facts. They tell you don't judge a book by its cover, right?
Yeah.
Don't judge a book by its cover. Open up the book.
Facts.
Open up the book.
Yeah.
You know?
Yours might not get signed like mine. It says to a king, Jason.
I mean, go on Amazon. We 5-star status. You know what I mean? We hot. We fish grease right now. We doing something different where the kids can see like you could do anything you want. Like if it was a comma in the wrong place, I left it there because we scarred as people, right? And I don't want the kids to feel, the young men or just people feel like you have to be perfect to put something out. Like, you know, you can have a little scar. You know what I mean? You've seen The Wire. You can have a little scar on your face and still put it out, right? So like, it's a movement, man. I think anybody that's somebody that know me, know our culture, know what we pushing, take a chance and one, get it, but then also think of something you want to do that's outside the box of what people told you could do. You know what I mean? Like, how many more pros we gonna have? Like, that stuff can get boring after a while, but this is refreshing. We outside. We're gonna see how many we can sell. Let's go.
Well said. You're the man. Thanks for doing this.
Man, pleasure's mine.
Be a friend of a friend, man. Go push that button.